How you doing, wrestling fans? And welcome to another edition of John and Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast. We are the only wrestling podcast that brings you back 30 years with vintage audio featuring some of the biggest names of that time. And this show is no exception. Pro Wrestling Spotlight covered all the news stories and breaking developments that happened in real time. Now we get to relive those moments right here on this podcast. And today we're going to review show number 260, the original Pro Wrestling Spotlight broadcast. This one aired on 1240 AM WGBB in West Babylon, New York on December 11th, 1994. We'll have special co-hosts join us from all those years ago on this episode. No, they're not here today. They were in the studio almost 30 years ago. I'm referring to ECW's Tommy Dreamer and Mikey Whipwreck. So they'll join us today. We also have Dave Meltzer was on that original episode, and a return of one of our all-time favorite callers. So I'll leave that as a little surprise for all of you. But first, once again, patreon.com/John Arezzi. I was checking it out earlier, and there are almost 700 posts on there, and 700 posts that you could get access to, several hundred posts for just $5 a month, and then there are other levels that you could browse, take a look at, from vintage video, 8mm films, photo sets, and other pretty cool historic content. But we are approaching the 700 post mark, so it's been pretty wild, and there's so much stuff on there, and more to come as we continue this journey. So go to patreon.com/John Arezzi. Join us. We did bring in a few new members last week, so thank you guys. I appreciate it very, very much, and I might as well just let you know who they are, because I do appreciate them, each and every one of them. So let's see what we got here. I am going to click on my phone and see if I could pull these guys up here. Boy, my eyesight's getting bad. I can't I can't even read it. So guys, let's see what we got. Tony Lewandowski and somebody simply named Luke. So those are our two new members from last week. So thank you for joining. Patreon.com/John Arezzi. Anyway, my eyes are shot. Let's bring on Marsh so we could discuss my eye problems with him.
John, can you see me?
Not really. No, it's like that. It's, I had my eye exam over a year. Every year I go in as you get older, and there are cataracts in my eyes. So the eye doctor told me that if you, over the course, if they start getting worse, because it makes your vision cloudy, right? It's a lens thing, right? Because they got to replace the lens in your eyes. That's cataract surgery. So I'm going to see her this week, and I'm going to get cataract surgery scheduled for sure. And they can only do one eye at a time, and I figured I'll do it before I get really busy this spring. So anyway, that's the part of getting old. So, celebrating a birthday and being 67 now is these little things start to pop up. And I always had a paranoia about my eye. I never wore a contact lens because I didn't want to put anything in it. And I had laser surgery back in 1998. But now these cataracts are, they're making it difficult for me to, it's just cloudy. It's like a cloudy vision. I'm sure everybody has sympathy for me out there now.
It sucks. I mean, it's crazy too. They're like, it's the lens. You're like, that's the bulk. It's the bulk of my eye as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one part of it that I care about.
Absolutely. And she's saying once you get it done, you'll be surprised how vibrant the colors are, and the clarity. It improves people's vision somewhat. But I always had this little fear. I don't like anything touching my eye.
Yeah.
So, and I guess there's an incision I got to make, and they can do it with a laser. But I'm not looking forward to that. I'm a baby when it comes to that shit.
I mean, the crazy bit is there's like no nerve endings in your eye, so they can go in there with knives and cut it all up, and you wouldn't feel
Oh,
anything.
that's
But
nice.
that's got
Thank
to be
you.
terrifying
It's
to like
terrifying. Yeah.
to visualize. You know what I mean? Like I don't think they put you under, but I wish they would. You
No,
know?
they don't. No, I think they give you a Valium or some type of little something. So when I go see her, I'm like, how much can I get? Can I take 3 Valiums? What, what can
Yeah.
I do? Is there a Xanax there? What else can I pump into my system before I
Yeah.
get the spotlight on my eye?
Yeah. Is there a temporary lobotomy I can do just so I'm
Yeah,
really out of it? Like
yeah.
I don't want to remember or experience it.
I have a fear of that, and I got fear of MRIs going in that tunnel
Yes,
or
those seem
tube.
crazy.
I
Those do seem
freak out.
crazy.
I can't do it
Uh,
because I've had a few MRIs because of the back surgery I had years ago, and my neck issue I had years ago, and I always would freak out, and those machines can't do it
yeah. It's those
because
old
I was
wrestling
big
injuries.
too, so it's almost like you're stuffing a sausage.
Yeah. You're afraid you're not going to get back out. You're like, look, I've watched Winnie the Pooh. I know what happens when I go halfway in.
That's
I'm
right.
stuck.
That is right.
Yeah,
Damn.
it's all those lingering wrestling injuries from your long
Yeah,
career
from like
as a
2
professional
matches.
wrestler. Yeah. People don't
Oh
know.
my god. So what do you think of the WWE making a deal with Netflix to take Raw off of USA Network and put it over to the streaming platform?
I think it's beyond brilliant, and I wish it was happening faster, personally,
Yeah.
because I haven't been able to watch Raw live in well over a year and a half because I stopped paying. I mean, we never got cable. I've never had cable. It's just too
Mhm.
expensive for me. For a while, I was buying like Hulu Live, and then I did Sling Live TV, and I tried the Fubu Live or whatever that one was. Uh, YouTube Live, I did all those. I've paid for all those, and every one of them, they start at $30, and within a couple years, they made it to
Yeah,
70, 80, $90. And I was like,
that's
I'm not
right.
paying $100 a month just to watch the 3 wrestling shows I watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then I've gone on those little websites that are sketchy and weird, and you have to switch servers every few minutes and stuff, and got to run your virus scanners just to watch wrestling. I was like,
Mm.
God, why is it so difficult? The fact that Peacock doesn't let me log into the USA app, even though it's part of the same network, you can log into your NBC profile, but you can't have access to their live shows.
Mm.
So frustrating.
Yeah.
The idea that it's all going to Netflix for 15, maybe $20 a month, maybe it gets a bump, and I can just watch it and just enjoy it. That was the whole point of Netflix to begin with, right? Cutting cable.
Mhm.
So
Well,
excited.
I don't know how many live shows they've ever done, like a weekly live broadcast. Because
I don't
this
know
was
about any
live.
weekly, but they did do the one Chris Rock special. That's the only one I know about the top of my head.
That's right. That was live. So they can do it, obviously, and they're
Mhm.
paying them. It's $5 billion over
Yep.
10 years.
Yeah.
And the pay-per-views won't be on there except for international. So if you're
International,
listening to this from other countries, which we have a number of people that do, and you have Netflix, this is where all the premium events are going to be, and it's really a very interesting deal. It's kind of changing the whole landscape of things.
I think it's great. I do want to know dynamic wise how it does work. I believe their Hulu contract is expiring and will not be renewed, which is also terrific news because Hulu will only replay an hour and a half of either show, and so they decide what gets cut and what
Oh,
doesn't.
no kidding.
So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff that you get just cut on the floor. I remember, well, I used to watch it a while back, and I remember thinking that there was no tag division or women's wrestling on the show for over a year, and then found out it was happening. It just was cut from Hulu. And you go, oh well, shit. I only wonder if Raw has it live on Netflix. Would Raw live on Netflix as an archive as well, or is that going to have to go to Peacock? And how long will it take Peacock to get the episode? Because as it stands now, they're a month behind.
Good question.
Yeah, so I just don't know. That's my only big question about it.
Yeah, but it was exciting, and the fact that The Rock is now on the board of directors,
So cool.
that's crazy, isn't it?
So
And
cool.
he got the trademark to The Rock.
Yeah.
He cut a good deal, I guess, and now it's really cool to see him on the board of directors, and his love for the business is still there. You know he's going to be at WrestleMania, and And the other thing, I mean, I watched Raw the other night, and just to see Cody and CM Punk face to face in the ring, I'm like, look what AEW is missing out on, first of all. But look at what the WWE did to these two, and to put them together like this in a way where the suspense is building. The crowd is literally split in half, 50-50. And you wonder, is there going to be a turn? What's going to happen in the Rumble? You know, by the time our patrons hear this, the Rumble will be over. But I'm looking forward to the Royal Rumble this Saturday.
Yeah, I can't wait.
As we tape this on January the 24th. I was going to tape it on January 25th, which is the birthday tomorrow, but I'm going out.
Yep. Happy birthday.
I'm heading out with some friends.
I think it'll be good for you. You've been a little cabin fevered the last couple weeks.
Yeah, this crazy weather. And even today and yesterday, I was like, at least the temps are back in the 40s, and 50s will be in the 60s, but it's been nonstop raining now. It's just, rain is just pouring down.
Yeah, it's been that way over here too. I don't know why it's raining all over the country, but it does seem to be. We've been getting rain steady for about 3 days now.
Well, get the droughts over with anyway.
Yeah,
because we had a drought here in Tennessee too. So this is alleviating that. But anyway, I want to get out. I want to go. I want to see the sunshine. I want to go out walking around.
Yeah. You know. Take all the pictures with all your friends.
I will take some pictures with them.
Yeah,
they're all girls, so that's kind of cool.
Perfect. Makes for better pictures.
Some of them are country personality, country stars. My friend Suzanne Alexander, who is a Long Island girl, who I've worked at 3 different companies with her.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Awesome. Like back at WNYG, I worked with her there. She was in the newsroom. I mean, this is back, my goodness, this is like mid 80s. And then when I left wrestling and got the job at WMJC, the country station, she was the music director, and her name is Suzanne Alexander. It's not a real last name. She changed it for radio. So when I reacquainted with her at WMJC on Long Island, she was like, "Why are you using John Alexander?" I said, "Why are you using Suzanne Alexander? We have the same fake last names."
Yeah.
It became, kind of my best friend. And then ironically, we both moved down to Nashville almost at the same time.
Yeah.
And she
was like kayfabe family.
She was coming down here to do some radio. And I was working at Great American Country Television. And we needed a substitute because one of our hosts was going away on, I don't know if it was maternity leave or somebody was taking a little leave of absence. And I brought Suzanne in and she did really well and got the gig. And she wound up, being a major part of Great American Country Network. And she works for Kix Brooks. She's the writer for all of Kix Brooks' syndicated radio show, and she's also on another cable TV network now, doing a country show. It's a RFD network. It's like for the rural farmers out there.
That's so cool.
But Suzanne Alexander and I go way, way back. Dear, dear friend. She's a sister from another mother, is how we present it to each other. So anyway, I'm hanging out with her and a bunch of the country music people on my birthday, and a lot of dogs, because it's like a benefit, like for it's raising money for homeless dogs or something.
Are you a dog person?
I love dogs. I just can't have one because I can't commit.
So it'd be perfect. It's going to be very therapeutic. You'll go over there, just be in a big old puddle cuddle.
I love dogs. I do. I love cats too. I mean, I like them all. I mean, we had pets when I was growing up, and but for me, especially in the years that I was traveling so much, I could never do it. I couldn't commit. And even now, I'm just kind of like, I just can't do it, even though I'd love to have one. Maybe when I'm old in a nursing home, I'll get a cat and put the cat on my lap and pet it. I just saw one of the episodes of The Sopranos, season 6, and Uncle Junior was sitting in a chair after he got beat up in the psychiatric ward, and he was just petting a cat who had all kinds of crooked teeth. So maybe that's where I'll end up in 10, 15 years.
That'd be perfect. I'm sure kayfabe Mama Alexander will be very happy you and Suzanne will be together.
Yeah. We're excited. So anyway, that's it. I mean, this episode we're going to review is December 11th, 1994, a long time ago, and it was a pretty cool episode with those two guests in the studio.
Yeah, that was 260. We're also doing 261 so far as I know here. I pulled 3 clips.
That is right, because that was only 25 minutes, that show.
Yep, it was you live at the Nassau Coliseum.
Did you pull that Cactus thing?
I pulled Cactus. We got Tod Gordon.
We got a lot today.
Yeah, and Donnie did the capsule for that one, which was great because he was calling in from Utica.
Yeah,
and you weren't there. So, like, basically, the whole show was done from outside different places, while it's happening.
That's good. So we got a good one for everybody to listen to today.
And which is lucky because in episode 260, December 11th, 1994, Donnie did not do a capsule because he was at the Killer Kowalski show.
So in actuality, today we're reviewing shows 260 and 261.
Yep.
Wow. So we ain't got too much more to go here, my friend. We got show 262 because then we take the Christmas break.
Mm-hmm.
For the 2 weeks. So the next one we're coming back with is 262.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the final one, show 265. Because I put them all up in the Google Drive, as you know. You see them. They're all there now. Yeah. Only a few more to go. And that Eddie Guerrero interview, oof. I mean, that was incredible. And I didn't do the interview.
Yeah, I heard that. It was
Eddie Goldman and Evan Ginsberg from the Light Show.
Yeah. It was so good you played it on your show. You got permission to just play it in its entirety, and you ran it. Mm-hmm. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I actually put up for patrons the interview they did with Art Barr.
It's up? Perfect.
Yeah, it's up there for patrons. And also, after Art had passed away, they did kind of a tribute to him the following week. So that's all together on one piece of tape. That's now in your Patreon account.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. I'm going to go pull that so I can listen to it. I didn't realize it was in there. I'll log into the Patreon every day. That's my bad.
Yeah, well, there'll be more of that coming up. I tell you that. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff with Patreon, and we're having these conversations about, the transition and what we're going to do and how we're going to start it. So we've been noodling.
Yeah.
Or spit. Yep. What do you call that? Spit. It's kind of isn't that a phrase? Spitballing.
Spitballing. We're throwing the noodles on the wall to see what sticks. That's how my dad taught me to cook spaghetti when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. Is that how you did it?
That's what he taught me. He said when you grab it and you can throw it and it sticks to the wall, it's good to go.
Yeah.
So like, okay. I believed it.
So it's al dente. I didn't like mushy pasta. I like a little bit hard.
I just like if it's stuck to the wall.
I
don't know what that means. But
it means it's done.
Yeah.
Put a little sauce on it and lick it off the wall.
Yep. Just get the little twirl right up on the wall.
Oh my God. What the freak is wrong with us today? I think it's your new haircut.
It is. I got a nice new sharp haircut. It's good to go. I mean, it's going to make our new 8x10s a little dated already, but that's okay because I had my long hair then.
8x10. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll unleash that at some point. But
yeah, I look like I'm wearing a toupee today.
Perfect.
My hair, because I put a little too much spray on it today.
Yeah, but people pay for toupees, so if your hair looks like a toupee, then it's perfect.
At least my hair's still growing.
Yeah.
At my age.
I think it's good. I think it's good.
Yeah. I'm losing all the other hair in my body, though.
That's perfect. That's the idea. Now, when you get baby oiled up for wrestling, you look good to go.
Yeah.
For your return to the ring.
Yeah. What are we going to do with the photo? Have we decided? We're going to make it.
I don't know what we're doing.
Patrons, or we'll figure it out. But you did a great job on the superimposition.
Yeah. I went through a few variations of if I should look like I'm standing behind you, if we should be side by side, if I should which one of us should be where. So it was a lot of fun, and
it looked like a pretty credible tag team.
I think so. I think we would have done all right.
I think we would have won.
probably not against the Power Twins, but against other teams, we probably would have been fine.
Yeah, I think we should put out an open challenge and see if we can get the Powers of Pain to reunite and go after them.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good. Long time coming.
Oh God, let's get on with the shoe.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. You had Tommy Dreamer and Mikey Whipwreck in studio, which was great. I didn't pull a ton of you talking to them outside of the callers and stuff like that. Just a few little clips that I thought was nice.
Yeah.
It was an interesting back and forth that the patrons are going to enjoy because it's in full up there on Patreon. There just wasn't a lot in there that I felt like was heavily notable. It was just really nice. It was a great conversation with nice guys and kind of digging in. And Tommy stayed pretty kayfabe.
Yes.
But would kind of like wink a little bit here and there. Like his tensions with Sandman were very real, but also I got a lot of respect for the guy, this and that, you know, so.
And Mikey, I don't know if that was his true personality, if he was that shy, or if he was also just being in character.
Yeah, he came off pretty shy. He was very soft-spoken. His mic wasn't even working at first, and you weren't positive if it was his mic or him, but you fixed it.
It was Mikey's mic.
Yeah. How many mics did you have in there? I thought that was like a 2-mic thing.
We had 4 microphones in that studio.
Oh wow! So yeah, they just had one off, and they just need to click it.
Yeah, it was a little technical glitch.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to the first clip. Donnie, like I said, is not on the show. Tommy and Mikey, you talked for just a brief minute, but this is when you asked Mikey about how long he's been wrestling in general, which I was actually pretty fascinated by.
Yeah.
Your story in itself, how long have you been wrestling?
Honestly?
Yeah.
10 months.
And Sonny Blaze was the guy who trained you, I believe?
Sonny Blaze, yes.
And Sonny used to co-host a show with me when I first started back in 1989 over at WNYG.
Yes, I've heard many stories.
And he was there every week, and then he broke into the business himself. And I think Cactus Jack was instrumental in getting him started. And lo and behold, this year in ECW, you and Cactus holding the tag team championship, which was a shock to a lot of people. But hey, each and every week, Mikey Whipwreck was improving. It's been really, it's almost like a miracle story of your growth in the pro wrestling business.
Yeah, well, my good buddy Cactus got me into another mess. Oh, Terry Funk had
missed his plane.
Yeah, missed his plane. This is back the night of the NWA title tournament, which caused enough news. I think it was August, wasn't it?
You know something, Mikey? That's right. Terry Funk missed his plane, and I was, Terry Funk and me, he kind of took me under his wing, and he missed his plane ride, and I guess I wasn't in the tournament, so I said I'd fill in for Terry and work with Cactus against the Public Enemy.
And they laid you out, right?
Went through 2 tables that night. Oh. Welcome, Mikey.
And then
next thing, he's the champ.
Cactus drags Mikey into the ring, and they take on Public Enemy, and the titles are yours.
I got to say something about Mikey. Everyone says Mikey, he used to just take an unbelievable beating, and he's just, he could just take a good butt kicking. But Mikey's a hell of a wrestler.
Oh yeah,
and I've seen him showcase his talents in ways that a lot of places, a lot of other different federations would never give a guy like Mikey a chance, and the people took to Mikey, and he's a very fortunate kid, but he's earning his respect amongst the people, and he's a good athlete
and a local Long Island boy.
That's
here
right,
also.
From Strong Island.
Strong Island.
And the fans have certainly taken to you. What I've enjoyed is even the music videos that Paul has put together in the studio with in the beginning of your career, just when you held the TV title as well.
Yes, The Loser.
Is that the name of the tune?
That was the tune, yeah.
From Beck, yep.
Yeah, that was great character development with that kid.
Yeah, really kind of neat too. To what an alternative way to use somebody so fresh.
Yeah, and Paul always had that in the back of his head, because I know when we were having discussions before ECW, he was talking about a character that he wanted to call the wrestling school dropout. Mm-hmm. The guy that would just get hammered and lose and get pummeled, and all of a sudden he starts winning. It was like a Rocky story, but he had it. That was his original concept, was the wrestling school dropout. And I think Mikey got that push
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It works so well because I mean, traditionally, how do we use the new guys? We just beat them into dust until they're good enough for us to start giving them wins. Like, why not make a story out of that instead of just having this guy be your enhancement talent who dresses generically and doesn't have much of a name or an entrance? Like, make him a budding star, you know?
And he did.
Yeah, really cool. And every now and again, you still see people. I've seen some wrestlers and stuff will still walk out there in the dragon shirt, little Mikey.
Yes. Yeah. He's an ECW legend for sure.
Yeah. Really cool. You guys talk about how ECW is rocking, how Tommy didn't think they'd be at the point where they're turning fans away. He just thought they would do well, but that's where they're at. And Tommy had been wrestling for 4 years at this point. It's something I've noticed from then versus now, right? And I wonder why this is. But at that time, if you've been wrestling 6 years, you probably were a top guy. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't as many as today where we see these guys like the AJs and Kevin Owens and the Sammys and all these guys who were on the independent circuit for 15, 16, 17 years before they end up on TV. You know, I mean, the Young Bucks have been on TV for 3 years and they're considered 20-year veterans. Like, that's pretty wild to think of these massively long pre-careers. Stone Cold Steve Austin hit Austin 316 when he was 6 years in. You know, Taz was, I think even when he was here, was only wrestling, I think 4 or 5 years. I think he was 6 years when he made it big in WWE even.
Yeah, he was Kid Crush. And then he was, what was the other names that he used? But Kid Crush for sure when I first met him.
Yeah.
And then Tasmaniac and Taz. But yeah, I mean, these guys toiled. They did all the Savoldi shows and all the indie shows, and there weren't a lot of opportunities to work first of all. So you had to play, you know, had to work in those high school gyms and all those.
Yeah.
Any place you could wrestle in to get experience, and there was just no place to go.
What do you think about that then? Because I mean, even look at Tommy Dreamer was the top guy over in ECW at this moment, and he'd been wrestling 4 years. Like, why then was it like 4 to 6 years and you were like top of your game? And nowadays it seems like 15, 16 years and now you're ready to break in. You know what I mean?
That's a good question. And there's certainly more independent shows out there. But once again, look at the amount of talent that the major companies have, the rosters.
Yeah. They're
so crowded.
Yep.
And you know what, you know, it's not like there's not a lot of spots for the top positions. Like really top positions.
That's true. Do you think it has to do with the wrestlers having longer careers in general? Like, I mean, Roman's been on top for already 10 years. Cena was on top for like 15. I mean, theoretically 20 if you want to talk about like his part-time stuff.
Yeah.
Was back then, was it a lot more common for someone to be done wrestling and retired within 10 years?
Or die.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that there wasn't a lot of places to go and, you know, the rosters were smaller for WCW and for WWF and ECW was starting up and there just wasn't a heck of a lot of places to go. And their spots were very few and far between even to get in. Yeah. And then there are the politics. Then it's the cliques. You know, so the backstage maneuverings and so there, you know, was when you say it's a difficult business, it certainly is a very difficult business. It was harder back then. It's more professional today. They take care of the guys today and the ladies. You know, there's a lot. It's a lot better to be in the wrestling business today than it was years ago.
Yeah. I wonder how many people, too, in general, were giving it a go and just quit within 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably rampant. It had to be. But also, when you talk about a guy like Dreamer and even Mikey, 10 months in, he's getting a big push. That's really, you put that on Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
For character development.
Yeah. And these guys were young. Let's listen to our next clip. This is where you ask them straight out how old they are. And you make a really interesting comparison at the time, too.
How old are you guys?
I'm 23.
18.
18 years old. in the business. You know, in Japan and in Mexico. No, I'm serious. It's like in the States, it doesn't happen very often where you get a break and you're allowed to even get into the ring, or someone gives you a shot at the young age that you are. But down in Mexico, there are guys like Rey Mysterio Jr. Who were, you know, broken when they were 15, 14 years old. And Rey is certainly one of the, some people think he's like the best flyer in the business today.
He's right up there.
Yeah, and so it's a credit to you that you got your shot, and the ECW promoters are giving you the opportunity to show your skills and giving you the push that's happening right now. And of course, if the fans didn't take to you, it wouldn't happen anyhow. So the fans fell in love with you, and your comeback style, and things are going well for both you guys, and that's really great. It's good to see new faces getting the breaks in this business right now.
Yeah, a little bit of a shorter clip, but like, I cannot get over how much you loved Rey Mysterio back then.
Oh yeah, I just couldn't get enough of him. I couldn't, because I was astounded. I couldn't believe what I was seeing the first time I watched him work.
Yeah,
I was like, where did he come from, and how in the heck is he doing all of this? I'd never seen anything like it.
He is amazing, and what a guy! Like, I've met him a couple times now, and it's like,
just down to earth, kind, appreciative, respectful, and just a genuinely nice human being.
Yeah, and like so grateful for every person who even recognizes them.
Yeah,
if you even look at him a little bit, like, he waves you over. I've seen him do it.
Yeah,
I was in a restaurant with him one time, and I didn't bother him because I'd already met him, but I saw him over there. And I was like, oh shit, that's Rey. He was eating a sandwich, and then he'd look around, and anytime someone glanced over, he'd put his sandwich down and wave him over and say, let's get a picture. And I was like,
that's nice.
What? Oh, he didn't have to do that.
Yeah, even at the status that he is, you know,
yes.
to be that kind when you already have achieved great success and recognition and championships and absolute superstar, to have that not affect your ego, and to be kind to the fans and welcome them over, you know, that's a unique individual.
Yeah, and that was 2019, so like you said, he'd had quite a career by then. So it's just, so for me, I love it hearing you back then talking about how incredible this kid is, getting in, being young, and so to know, fast forward, the man he becomes and the performer he comes on top of that, like, those are those feel good moments when you're not only right about somebody in ring, but it turns out you're also so right about who they are outside of the ring, like him and the Foleys. You know, it's so cool to see.
I was lucky. I really was, to be in the business at a time where these guys were emerging, like the Mick Foley story, and being able to hang with him as Cactus Jack Manson, and developing a friendship with him before he broke, you know, after he got back from Texas and, you know, hit the independents, and then that whole friendship that developed. And it was remarkable to be able to be hanging out with Taz and with the ECW boys and the Mexicans. I was in a magical era of this development of these athletes who have become superstars and Hall of Famers today. I was in a good spot to see it all unfold, and see a lot of tragedy too. A lot of people that were lost.
Yeah, I wonder how often Cactus would be at a show during that era too, and be like, "Oh, I heard you on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight the other day," because you did a lot of promotion for him at the time. You know.
Oh yeah.
Really cool. I love them talking about their fans too. Tommy'd even mentioned at one point that the ECW really gave him a big break, and he said the fans taught him how to be extreme. You know, that something about the way that they were acting and behaving helped feed him into this extreme nature they're doing.
Yeah, because he was a guy that was not ever looked upon as like a main eventer or a guy that can win or go over, but the fans took to him, and the fans adored him and tried to help him in any way they can by even passing, you know, weapons to him during his matches. So they really took to him, and they had sympathy. I mean, with that angle with Sandman when he was getting the Singapore cane and, you know, thank you, sir, can I have another? I mean, that endeared him to those hardcore fans.
Yeah. It's badass. It's crazy. Sandman was teaming with Angel at this point.
Yeah.
Who played Angel?
What was her last name? I forgot.
But there was that whole story, and that was one of the ones we even talked about before with the violence in ring with the men and the women. The Sandman Angel and Tommy Dreamer one definitely got there. And you even bring it up with Cactus later on, so I won't get in too much detail there, but I remember seeing little clips of that at the time. Let's see. You run some ads. You talk about the new promotion in Connecticut called Battlecade. It couldn't have lasted long.
No.
And then you bring on Meltzer. You bring on Dave Meltzer. You just run through a bunch of stuff with him. And you don't even bring on like Tommy and Mikey. Like they hear he's there, but they're just like quietly listening. So it's kind of neat. But I pulled 3 clips from this one because I really like you breaking down some of the news that you did with him, especially without Donnie there. This first spot is about Conan and Art Bar.
Perhaps some of the biggest stories in this wrestling business in this decade so far.
Well, there's no shortage of news, that's for sure.
That's very true. Of course, the unfortunate death a few weeks back of Art Bar, American Love Machine, is still on the minds of a lot of the wrestling fans out there, and still a great loss. Now, getting to that first and foremost, the repercussions still being felt in the AAA. There were reports this week regarding Conan that he had been hospitalized for depression. Did you hear anything regarding that?
Yeah, it was only like for a day though.
Okay,
but yeah, I think he was like the Monday after they had done like a big thing in the ring, like a ceremony in the ring, and I think that night, I think that he got really depressed. Yeah. He's fine now. It's
been a sad situation, and as far as even the autopsy results go, has anything been revealed as far as?
No, I don't. Nothing. The autopsy revealed nothing. The autopsy was done a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it revealed nothing. I mean, they're waiting for toxicology reports to see if there's any more that they can find out.
But regardless of that, it's the biggest, probably the biggest loss. Now, a lot of people have been trying to reflect on this, Dave, and the loss of Art Bar. A lot of people are feeling now that it may have the same effect to the wrestling business or the same. As far as an impact and magnitude as David Von Erich when he died back in the 80s, also the death of Bruiser Brody when he was murdered back in 88. It's of that magnitude. I kind of compare it that it's hard to compare it rather because Art Bar really never had his time to shine here in the States,
Well, he did at the last pay-per-view.
So, yeah, one show, but
but in those Los Angeles shows and everything. But it's really hard to compare. Bruiser Brody was already 42 years old, and whatever legacy he was going to create in wrestling, he already had. David Von Erich, probably changed in many ways the landscape of wrestling. I don't know if the Art Bar thing will or, will not, would not have been that big, and we'll never really know. But it was a big, it was a big deal. It's a big thing, and it was a big deal in Mexico. It really deflates the main events, of AAA down there, because he was, I don't think we realized how important a part he was of those main events until he's not there anymore, and it's just sort of like it's the glue that held it all together.
Yeah, and of course, it certainly affected the Gringos Locos concept. Now, what's going to be happening now with Eddie Guerrero? And of course, Luis Piccoli is leaving as well. He's going to WWF.
Right, and Eddie Guerrero is going to probably come back as Black Tiger. They're probably not even going to use Eddie Guerrero as Eddie Guerrero anymore.
So that whole thing, which was a major focal point of their promotion, is now
was the major. Yeah. It was the major focal point of the promotion, and they just dropped it.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to rebuild, but they have we'll see. I mean, I watched their TV yesterday, and it was pretty hot television. They had a sellout crowd, and it was so. It's not like that the promotion's gone, down to nowhere either.
No, they had their depth is there. They got plenty of talent in that organization. There's plenty of extremely talented wrestlers there.
Yeah. It's interesting. Eddie was going to go back to being Black Tiger.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that happened or not. I know that not too long after that, I guess he went to ECW.
That's true. And he was not Black Tiger in ECW, I don't think, was he?
No. And then WCW.
No.
And then WWF.
Maybe that's just what Eddie was spitballing with Dave as like, what are you going to do next kind of a deal. Maybe he was like, I don't know, maybe just go back to what I was doing before, So
yeah, it was big. And when we play that Eddie Guerrero interview, also from Eddie Goldman and Evan Ginsberg.
Mm-hmm.
What a traumatizing thing to even listen to when we get to that. And I believe in the next, is it the next episode? Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah.
It'll be on the next episode, and it's heartbreaking to hear it.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, Conan stayed the night in the hospital.
Yeah.
After an art bar thing, memorial. So it hit people pretty hard. I mean, it's kind of crazy for me to hear this because it's just a name I've heard kind of in passing from time to time. But to hear like how massive that was in that moment was, I mean, you guys are comparing it to Bruiser Brody and David Von Erich. And I'm like,
yeah,
man,
big impact. So that's why I also recommend patrons to sign up and listen to that interview with Art Barr that those guys did. And there's a lot of revealing stuff. And then he also talks about when they brought Tanya Harding in to do a spot. So anyway, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
A sad time back then, and it really changed the whole direction of what was going on in AAA, and it was impacted a lot of people.
Yeah. You guys get into some of the WWF news. You talk about Diesel being a new champion, what was nice to hear about this is like history has not been kind to Diesel as a champion. A lot of people have said, he was a terrible champion, shouldn't have done this, that, the other thing. But in that moment, you and Meltzer were spitballing that it was the best choice they had. They're like, if you're not going to go with Bret Hart, it's got to be Diesel.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were really hopeful that this was going to be really big and that you guys thought it was a great concept to make him champ.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he became who he became, but it really wasn't. It wasn't until like after the title reign and after everything that happened, and them showing up on WCW, and that's when it just got bigger than life.
Yeah.
The New World Order.
I like hearing you guys as early adopters to the Diesel character because I know that even in hindsight, a lot of people refer to Diesel as like he was a good champ for kids, right? But like, no, even the smart guys wanted him as the champ. So it's kind of cool. And then you guys talk about Chris Candido and Tammy.
Yes.
And of course, the WWF is bringing in a lot of new faces, Dave, and more than a real strong influx of new talent. The latest rumors that have been circulating this week is that Chris Candido was coming in, and also Tammy Fitch. Can you clarify that, or have you heard anything regarding that?
I know they were there at the TV's whatever it was last week, and the last I had heard, and this was as of a few days ago, I heard that Candido was still trying to decide whether to go with All Japan or with WWF, that he would go with one or the other in 1995. And I really don't know I don't even know if he had made a decision. I talked to someone who talked to him. I did not speak to him myself, and this was maybe 2-3 days ago. We talked to him the night before, and they said that he still had not made up his mind.
And what about Tammy?
Tammy, I assume if Chris goes to WWF, I'm sure Tammy will go too.
Yeah.
And if Chris doesn't go, she may go anyway. I mean, I really don't know. I really don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, they were both on this program less than a month ago, and she said if they would call, she'd go. And he was pretty non-committal at that time, but the opportunity for All Japan is certainly for him. He was saying that was his dream to go to All Japan, and he's got his dream. And I guess the WWF is just trying to snag whatever new faces they can get out there for this new generation.
It's time for them to do that.
Of course it is.
It's time to make a change. It's time to do a rebuilding year, and they know it. And and really, Chris Candido is. As far as, I think Chris is, 21, 22 years old.
Yeah. And
for wrestlers who are 21, 22 in this business right now, he may be, he's as good as they come. He may be the best. So, I mean, it would be smart for them to get him, obviously. At the same time, I wonder, from his perspective, one of the things about WWF is that when you go there, it's the peak of a lot of people's career, but at the same time, it kind of burns you out on a national basis. After a couple of years there, you become one of the pack. And no one, just because I guess the schedule and the work rate and stuff, I don't want to say no one, but 95% of the wrestlers who go to the WWF never improve, and probably more than half get worse. And Candido, and if you go to All Japan, it's probably the opposite. 95% of the guys who go to All Japan continue to improve. And if Candido is one of these guys who, is looking to be a really, really great performer, perhaps 3 years in All Japan, he'd come out of there, probably, 30% better than he is now. And then if he went to the WWF, he might be, already at the Shawn Michaels level. I mean, maybe not quite that good, but, potentially he could be right up there. He is that good.
Yeah.
He has that potential.
Yeah, it's certainly a big decision for him. And I tell you, for the fans here in the United States, it certainly would be great for them to have the opportunity to see him on a national level.
Yeah, just talking about that is it's really cool to hear back. And I mean, Candido. I mean, when he went to WWF with Tommy, I mean, they made a mark pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I remembered them right away. I liked them as a team, even the Body Donnas thing. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how much you guys were talking about and embracing the new generation concept.
Yeah,
it was going in.
Yeah, it was a transformation in so many ways.
And the other thing that I thought was funny was hearing Dave saying, when people go to WWF, none of them get better.
Yeah.
And he goes, as a matter of fact, some of them get worse.
Yeah.
And he goes, it's like the opposite of Japan.
Mm-hmm. It was. I mean, WWF did a lot just to water down people before, they put them on TV and get them acclimated. They changed them.
Yeah, but at the same time, Shawn Michaels wasn't better before he was in WWF. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bret Hart did a lot of his best work in WWF. Like, it wasn't that. I mean, and look at even Sean Waltman. He was doing great as far as you guys go, but I wouldn't say he got worse when he got there.
No.
You know what I mean? I think it's just more of an insight of the mentality that Meltzer had then that's even stronger now. Like, because people talk about his old ratings, are like, oh, WWF never had a 5-star match, this and that. It's like, well, because he didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like,
that kind of comes through. I mean, I was in the same mindset. Well, I was always looking for a way to not root, not give them what they call today flowers,
And you guys had both been burned by the company a number of times. It stands to reason that you would feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just it was a really traumatic several year period, especially when all them, when you're reporting on all these things that were going on outside of the ring and the steroid stuff that was affecting the wrestling that we grew up with and loved and changing the whole dynamic of what you saw in ring.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was the crux of your fallout with Russo. That got so heated quickly because of WWF. I mean, I think that on the flip side, had you and McMahon become very close, you wouldn't have talked about it the same way. You know what I mean? Like,
probably true.
You know what I mean? And I don't even think that's a bad thing or a negative thing. It's just a contextual thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I do like to hear him say that flat out of like, well, 99% of the people who go there get worse. And you're like, dude, no, not everyone's just getting worse when they show up.
Mm-hmm.
You have a small bias. And like you said, their moveset changes. Not because they can't, but because that's how we do things here, right? So like, they're not worse. But it was neat. I'm glad Candido went. He's another one, though, of like what could have been.
Oh, I know. That was... that's just a tragic story. His life with Tammy, and it's just horrible.
It's a true loss of potential.
Yes.
So, you asked Dave if he knows anybody else who's going to be going in, and he just kind of names off a few people who are already over there. Like he even says Henry Godwin, and you're like, he wasn't Henry before. Yes, he's there. But Louis Spicolli came up, and I thought that was cool. I've only heard good things about him.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a person. Did you ever get to interact with him?
Oh, yeah. Really nice guy. I had him on my card in 1993, Weekend of Champions. So he was on that show and met him, through Scola bringing him into AAA, and just seemed like just a great guy. Nice guy.
Yeah, I want to say I've heard Waltman put him over pretty heavily, too, that he was just really good in ring. And then you guys break into some WCW news. which you guys don't realize, but becomes a much bigger story later on.
And going over to WCW, big news there. Obviously, Macho Man Randy Savage is in. He's going to be on the Starrcade pay-per-view to meet Hulk Hogan face to face, whether to shake his hand or slap him in the face. That's certainly big news in the wrestling business. And Macho Man, he looked, he looked fresh. He looked like he's got a new burst of energy inside of him. Just saying in the interview that he did, and that's a big story. Also, perhaps the biggest story in WCW is the injury of Stunning Steve Austin, the knee injury. Now, he's going to be out for a long time, isn't he?
Last I heard, they were thinking, 8 months to a year. He's going to need reconstructive surgery. At least that was, as of the last doctor that he went to, which was maybe a week ago or so.
Yeah.
That's what I had heard. So, it's a real devastating injury. It was, I think it was two torn posterior ligaments, which
wow.
That's the kind of an injury. Just going back, knee surgery has really advanced so much in the last 10 years. That's the kind of an injury that even 10 years ago, a football player got it. That would be, that would be a career ender. That wouldn't even be a season out. That's how serious this injury is. But now, a guy with that surgery, he will come back. I don't think it's a career ender, but it's a pretty major deal.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way, and I tell you, it's for Austin, reading the Observer, reading the Torch, and just analyzing the situation with his being out for such a length of time. Do you guys feel that it's going to be a good thing for him in the long run because he'll be coming back fresh, and then they could really do something with him if they decide to give him that strong push that he deserves?
It could be. It could be a good thing in the long run if they handle it right for his career. If they figure out a way to use him and really push it hard.
Yeah.
Whether it will be a good thing, I wouldn't go so far as to say it will be a good thing, because they've fumbled, they fumble more opportunities than they hit on, you know what I mean? So, I don't know that they'll, come up with it. And plus he may not be in their plans no matter what. They may have, whomever is running it, which is really Hogan, if Hogan has no inclination to ever want to work with Steve Austin on top, it doesn't really matter what they could do with him. They're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That was long-term good for his career.
It was. It was. Yeah, when he got back and then he doesn't stay that long, and then he gets to ECW and he does that little run there, and then WWF, but he never got the belief. He was a great worker. Everyone knew that, and he had great charisma, but he was always kind of pushed down. He never had the opportunity to really shine.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he ever comes back, first off. I think that this is the injury where he gets...
And that's it. And then he goes to ECW, then WWF, and that's it. So he doesn't even go back to WCW.
Yeah. That's why when he was in ECW, I don't even think he had a match. I think they just had him do a few promos because they were expecting him to be done healing soon to get in. Yeah. And before he was able to be healed, he got the WWF contract. But
how many? He was with ECW for just a couple of months, I believe.
Exactly,
for just a few shows, and he toured.
Well, while he was
the promos.
Did he have a match there? The promos, yeah. From what I recall, he got the FedEx while injured, shows up and cuts the massive promo on Eric Bischoff on ECW.
Yeah,
does the Hogan promo, and then WWF sees these promos and go, "That guy's got a lot of something." And then they bring him in and take away his mouth.
Yeah, the ringmaster.
But, like you said, everyone knew. You guys, I played it a couple weeks ago. You guys were talking about how he was incredible. His promos were the best in the business. And this is before the big ones, Yeah. We played before Paul Heyman being on the show years and years and years ago, where you asked, who's the future? And he said, Steve Austin will one day be the biggest star in the industry.
Yeah. That's why it's so cool to listen back to this stuff too.
Yeah. It's insane.
Imagine when we start reliving it all over again.
I can't wait. So yeah, I thought it was cool because it was all like, oh, the biggest news is Steve Austin's bad or injured. And like I said, you guys have no idea how big that turns out. It changes everything.
And I was already out of the business then. This was getting close to the swan song.
Yeah, you're really close to out, and I don't know. It's just neat, man. And I just think at the time too, because you got to live it in a different way than I think almost all of us listeners got to experience any of it. Here you were at this time talking about what a big deal he should be and all that. And then fast forward a couple years, you're nowhere near the business, but you're peeking over the fence now and then being like, oh God,
yeah.
I knew it. Here we
got
go.
out at the wrong time.
I got out of the wrong time, yeah. You guys talk about how ECW's hot. Smoky Mountain had a full house. You talk a load about UFC, and this was a funny one. UFC is huge, right? You had heard a rumor that they had 70,000 buys already, and it was a week out. Dave says he just doesn't believe that. He goes, that would make it a bigger pay-per-view than WrestleMania. WrestleMania doesn't even have that many a week before. I'm not inclined to not believe you. Mm-hmm. UFC was big fast.
It did. And it was huge when it first broke.
Yeah. I think that Dave just doesn't understand how big it is. You know what I mean? It's hard to comprehend, right? If the biggest thing's always been the biggest thing and something else comes out and just does better, you go, well, that can't be possible.
Yeah, I was drawn into it. I was fascinated by it just because it was like, here you are in an octagon and these guys are beating the crap out of each other.
I still contest that the greatest era of UFC was that first couple years, and not because it was more brutal.
Yeah.
It was just more interesting because they had experienced guys who had a specific style. Here's a judo guy against a taekwondo guy. And how do these styles fight against each other? That's fascinating. Now everyone has the same style. Everyone does MMA.
Right. Now it's all just MMA. Now it wasn't Brazilian this or jiu-jitsu that or it was very diverse and it was new. And there was a lot of people that wanted to ban it right away. Yeah. I mean, Senator John McCain just went crazy on it and wanted to get it banned and caused many states not to license it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why it should have been banned, but from an interest standpoint, the idea of having a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy go up against a guy whose specialty is bar fight.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or a karate guy against a taekwondo guy, you go, what does that look like? Muay Thai versus something else. Like, here's specialized expertises conflict with another one. How do the styles mesh up? But yeah, it does sound bad. It does sound brutal and unsafe. So, just neat. You come back from the ads, and this is we have a Christmas promo. You're so excited about it. You tell the guys you want to play another one. You're so excited about that one that you play the Cactus Jack Christmas Wish.
Okay.
And then I kept a couple minutes or about a minute or so of you and Tommy and Mikey talking about it afterwards.
Okay.
This is Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. I want to wish all the wrestling fans a big, hot Merry Christmas on Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
I like those Christmas promos. I've had them cut for the last few years. And play the next one, too, okay, Mark? It's my favorite one. Check this one out.
Wish you a Merry Christmas. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Oh, howdy out there. Ho, ho, ho. You simple-minded idiots. You're listening to Terry Funk right here, and I do want to wish you exactly what I was singing to you. A very Merry Christmas.
That's really like my favorite Christmas promo of all time.
One of the best things I've heard. That's Terry Funk in a nutshell, man.
Now, before we take our calls, Mark, we have that Cactus Jack New Year's wish, that Christmas wish from Cactus Jack. So why don't we play that as well?
This should be good.
We're getting ready to hear Cactus, and this was cut a few weeks back, and this is his wish for Christmas. if we got it.
It's my Christmas wish. This is coming right from the heart, that all promoters can learn to get along and set an example for all the warring nations out there. If Tod Gordon and Dennis Coralluzzo can embrace, then who knows? Maybe next it's Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon. Maybe then Giant Baba and Antonio Inoki, and pro wrestling as we know it will stop being this despicable, violent act and become one great giant love-in. And who wouldn't want to see the two awesome Kongs embrace? Bang, bang!
Good old Cactus with his message from the heart. And Cactus will be on our bus next week, coming back from Philadelphia. And Cactus will be joining us December 18th, which is next Sunday. And we'll be at the Nassau Coliseum from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. Cactus and Missy Hyatt. There's rumors abound that, Mikey, that you might be attending this thing as well. It's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
And Tommy, any chance of you coming down to sign some autographs?
50-50. It depends on how if I taste that cane or anything the night before. I don't know if I'll be able to make it.
Well, your back is certainly all scarred up from
unfortunately. But I got my Mikey. On this radio station, we had my mentor Terry Funk do one.
Yes.
We had your mentor Cactus Jack do one. Maybe later we'll do one.
Yeah, that'll be great. We'll play that next week.
And John, did I hear you right? You're having Cactus Jack on a bus?
He's coming on our bus trip next week to the ECW show.
I think he'll be the first person to chime in the 100 bottles of beer on the wall.
He's got made up the limited edition shot when his ear was torn off in Germany. He's made those limited edition photos up for the fans on the bus if they.
Maybe he'll do 100 bottles of beer broken over my head.
Cactus has always enjoyed those bus trips. He's been on a few of them before, and he's one of a kind, that's for sure. And your tag team partner next week, Tommy.
Yeah, those bus trips that Cactus Ron was on proved actually fruitful for him when he went back to WCW because he talked to Dusty Rhodes. He was on one of our bus trips. We were in Baltimore, and that's when he got a chance to go backstage, talk to Dusty, and then he's back in WCW.
So funny. I like how you could even hear yourself giggling as you're playing it because you're so excited to play these for Tommy and Mikey.
They dug them. They really enjoyed them. Terry Funk one to this day is just so cool. I mean, awesome. that was always my fun part of December when we were broadcasting, just so I could pull those out and play those.
Yeah,
wish I had more. Wish I had more of those.
Man, I mean, it's great. I like that we did the supercut last year. Of all the ones that I could find, those were great. If I had known that, there was a Christmas wish and a song coming too, then that'd have been a nice little addition. But I think about too. We've talked about take the photos when you can. Those are nice little mementos you have too. That these guys putting over your show, like that's cool.
It's classic content, man. It's just like when you hear these voices back all these years later, and these guys have all become these legends, and they were just really starting out and getting their break. It is cool to listen back, and no one else has this stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. I even think about my dumb little show. In my intro and outro, we have a couple of the superstars saying they either would or would not have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks, and I can't help but smile every time I play the intro and outro, just hearing the voices on it, and just being like, this is so cool. You guys took it. So this is a step beyond what I got. So it's got to be awesome for you,
Yeah, it is cool. By the way, I shared a link to Wrestling on the Rocks. Someone on our YouTube channel was wanting that link. How do I find Marsh's show?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. No, it's there.
You may have a new viewer.
For a moment.
For a moment? What do you Oh, jeez.
So you get into some callers. Dave from Staten Island, Paul from Philly. Every time Paul from Philly calls in, I just wonder if he was just saying that. Like, was his name really Paul?
I don't know. But it might have been.
I mean, it's not that awkward of a name, but every time I hear it, I'm like, is this going to be Paul Heyman calling in to goof on you? But there's a guy who's at the show. You had Mike from Espico call and ask about Warrior. Any update on Warrior?
Always.
So that'll never go
Warrior. Always a Warrior question.
Yeah. And our last clip for 260 is the return randomly
of
my personal favorite caller.
Okay.
Joey, are you there?
Hey, what do you say, John?
Joey, this is like Joey that I haven't talked to in like 5 years. Good, man.
Good to hear you. Dave, Mikey, Tommy, and good to see you.
What's up, Joey?
How you doing? Just a quick question. Sorry about Steve Austin, but that man's the real deal. But one other thing I wanted to ask you. Remember, I always thought Barry Windham would be the predecessor to Ric Flair. And what happened exactly? They had him brought him back 6 months ago and really didn't look too good at all. What happened? What was the injury that drove him out? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, Dave Meltzer will turn this one over to Dave. Dave, what's going on with Barry Windham? What was that injury, and what is the status for Barry right now?
Yeah, I think that Barry Windham injured his knee, and I think that I don't really think Barry Windham really wants to come back because anyone who is that talented, if they wanted to be back in there right now, they'd be in there right now.
Yeah, pretty much, and he was certainly one of the top guys a few years back, and they just seem to vanish off the face of the earth. We're running out of time rapidly here, and I want to thank you for your call, Joey from Babylon. Good hearing you again. Guy hasn't called in 4 years.
Oh. I know it was that long. I was just so excited to hear him. It seemed like decades hearing that voice.
Hey, Johnny.
Hey.
Johnny, my man. What a random question.
How you all doing?
Remember 2 years ago when I said that Barry Windham would take over Rick? Whatever happened with that?
Yeah. He was following up.
Yeah. You didn't want it left unhung.
He woke up that morning and was like, I'm going to call a spotlight and see what's going on with Barry Windham.
It was ridiculously random. I was like, oh my God, it's Joey. Oh my God, he's talking about Barry Windham?
Yeah, he's become a legend, man.
He's my favorite.
At least to me.
He's my absolute favorite.
You haven't heard George from Lindenhurst yet.
No, but Joey's voice just sounds like he's an animation. He doesn't sound like he's a real person, which is what makes him better.
I loved his argument with Cactus on WNYG. That was just freaking classic, man.
So good. Can't wait to get back into those. That does take us to 261 at Nassau Coliseum.
December 18th, 1994. A live remote.
There's a live remote. It was a convention thing you were doing, wasn't it?
It was not promoted by me, but it was a sports and collectibles show.
Yeah.
In the exhibition hall there at the Coliseum. And so I was able to finagle some tables and promote it on air in exchange for some free tables.
So you had a spot where you were putting people?
Yeah.
Okay. So because you said you had Cactus Jack, Missy Hyatt was on the way, Mikey Whipwreck was there, Public Enemy was on the way. So you had a wrestling signing table, and they were just bringing them in and shooting.
Yeah, and they could sell their stuff.
Yeah. And Cactus had stuff to sell. He always.
Oh does. Yeah. I mean, he had those for the bus trade. Those pictures of his bloody stub of an ear, and people were scooping them up.
Was it a close up of his ear?
Yes. The side shot, he had his hair up, and there was just this bloody pulp. And he had this crazy smile on his face, like this deranged smile. Like the man without an ear, and he was signing them those things to people.
Oh, I bet you it's this one. I'm gonna save it and text it to you during the next clip.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I remember it like it was yesterday, that picture. I was like, oh my God, how gruesome.
Oh, no, it's got to be this one. I'm going to save these. I'm going to send you during the next clip. Because, I just thought it was funny when you're like, he's got the ear picture. And I was like, what? But, yeah.
He always was. He always knew how to capitalize off of his pain.
I'm legit, guys. You talk about the ECW show. So do you remember who was putting on the event?
I have no idea.
Okay. Because I had a feeling it wasn't one of your friends because I didn't hear you say Tommy or anybody.
No, it was probably just a sports memorabilia promoter.
Yeah. So that's cool. That makes sense. You had the little rotating table, which is awesome, having a presence there. With that in mind, Donnie.
Here's what the production stuff was. I was on a phone when I called in. I didn't have a microphone set up or a live remote set up there. It wasn't like EVD. It was just like NYG. You find a phone, you pick it up, and you call. There were no cell phones, obviously. Yeah. And in order for Donnie to do his report, he had to call into the station at a regular number, and that's why we couldn't communicate with each other. And even when I bring Cactus on to speak to him, Cactus is talking on a payphone.
Cactus is on a...
Yeah. Well, he's on the phone with me. I'm, handing the phone back and forth to him.
Yeah. I thought you meant there was like another phone he was calling in on, and I was like, what?
No. He was there.
So Donnie's calling. So you just had somebody on the switchboard going through the whole thing, making sure it's going back
and
and forth.
Engineer that was driving crazy. Yeah, engineer who people were like they're getting paid minimum wage or less. I used to challenge them with my show because there was a lot going on.
And I used to, or I cut out once you pitched to Donnie.
Yeah, because
there was just this. It was a long time.
I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And you could almost hear a little voice in the background a little bit, and I couldn't tell if it was the engineer like grunting to himself or it was Donnie. Yeah,
panicking. Muttering, panicking. How do I do this?
Oh, God.
We got through
it. Yeah, through it. And Donnie comes on. Right before you pitch to Donnie, though, you wish him happy holidays because you won't be able to talk to him before the holidays. And you're not going to be able to talk to him at the same time because the guy's having to flip from phone to phone. So this is the capsule.
Thank you, John. And though we are having some technical difficulties, I hope everybody out there could hear me. First of all, I'd like to say Merry Christmas to everybody. And as John was alluding to, well, listen to this. Extreme Championship Wrestling on the Madison Square Garden Cable Television Network. Wishful thinking. Think again. The contract has been inked. Preliminary plans are calling for the Philadelphia-based promotion to follow an hour of WCW beginning in February. Now remember, when the premiere date and time of ECW on MSG is known, you can count on hearing it here first. So once again, ECW has signed. The contract is already done. They will be on the MSG network. All right, next thing coming up this week, Sabu. Now the marquee attraction of ECW, and until recently, a regular performer for the Japanese-based Frontier Martial Arts promotion, has signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling, a group that accents the skills of junior heavyweights, which Sabu is certainly. Now, we are told that this move came with the approval of FMW leaders and leaves a window open for Sabu to work selected future FMW cards. Now, the 30-year-old Michigan native will have his first match under the New Japan banner in Tokyo, Japan on Christmas Eve. Turning to stateside news, the first 4 matches consisting of the opening round of the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship Tournament are on tape. The 4 teams advancing to the second round are Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow, the Head Shrinkers, Jim Cornette's Heavenly Bodies, and the Smoking Guns. Now, the finals are scheduled to be part of the Royal Rumble in Tampa next month. And speaking of the big pay-per-view, Diesel will be defending his belt against Bret the Hitman Hart. And among the first 10 participants to be announced in the Royal Rumble, one is a big surprise. Former WWF Tag Team Champion Dirty Dick Murdoch from Texas will be included. In looking past this month's Starrcade pay-per-view, the projected main event for WCW's January 25th Clash of the Champions, to be held in Hampton, Virginia, is Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. They'll be teaming up against Kevin Sullivan and Butcher Beefcake. Now, we'll also expect to see a rematch from Starrcade between Sting and Avalanche, with the Guardian Angel serving as the special referee. Blacktop Bully is also expected to appear as well. However, 5 days earlier, mark this down on your calendars, on January the 20th, the Superstation WTBS plans to run an all-nighter of WCW, so start stocking up on those blank videotapes. A couple of title changes to report. Nature Boy Buddy Landel swiped the Smoky Mountain Wrestling television belt from Brian Lee at a recent TV taping in Princeton, West Virginia, while further south on the same day in Memphis, Tennessee, Candy Devine lost her UWF lady strap to Miss Texas in the Mid-South Coliseum. Well, with projections having the Road Warriors back touring as early as February or March, the 2 will be in the same ring January the 4th in Japan. Hawk, with the still injured Animal in his corner, presumably for moral support only, opposes fellow American Scott Norton in the big January 4th Tokyo Dome show. Checking out the promotional bookings for today, things are a bit on a quiet side with the WWF off until December the 26th for Christmas vacation. They return with 2 shows on the day after Christmas, one in Sacramento, California, the other one in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. WCW currently with a crew on tour in Germany, finishes up there Tuesday, and Smoky Mountain has no matches scheduled through Friday, and the USWA runs their traditional Monday night card in Memphis tomorrow. Finally, this week in wrestling history, things took place in one of John's favorite towns. Looking at 1983, that was 11 years back this week, Dirty Dick Slater, currently with WCW, defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine for the NWA United States Championship in Shelby, North Carolina. For the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, I'm Don Lible reporting. Happy holidays, everybody. Capsule time, 111.
He had a lot of energy on that capsule, didn't he?
Yeah, he was more hyped than normal. It was almost like he felt like the show was relying on him in this moment, and by God, he was going to give it. Yeah,
what a delivery in the beginning! Like even the ECW announcement. I mean, he was quite animated.
Yeah,
and he was. Yeah, he was the whole thing. And then mentioning Shelby, of course, that's where I worked with the New York Mets back in 1981. And
why would the Mets send you to Shelby to work? It was a sales thing, right?
Yeah, they had minor league team there. I mean, that was it was in the South Atlantic League, the old Sally League they called it, and the Mets had a single A affiliate there, and that's where I met John Gibbons, and we were roommates, and JP Ricciardi, and yeah, so 43 years, almost 44 years now.
Yep.
And our friendship still endure.
Yeah, regardless of the stories you told about it in the book, of what it was like being his roommate. So, anybody wants to know?
Oh yeah, they used to leave all their dirty dishes around, and yeah. Well, I'm in business, with Gibby, with the Gibby show, and the book deal that Gibby. Yeah, I mean that was great. And now JP and I are. It's kind of funny the way life is full circle. JP Ricciardi was our other roommate, and another guy named Mike Hennessy. But JP had a wonderful career in baseball. I mean, he didn't make it as a player, but he went on to coach, and he went to work with the Moneyball team in the beginning of the Moneyball team out in Oakland with Billy Bean and Paul DiPodesto, Sandy Alderson. Spent years there, and then got hired as a general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays for 8+ years. Hired Gibby for his first manager's gig. JP then leaves and goes to the New York Mets and spends 8 years in their front office, and then goes out to San Francisco and works as a special assistant to the general manager out there, and just leaves the Giants after this baseball season. We brought JP on for the last Gibby Show podcast, and now it looks like JP is going to be taking over the reins for that Toronto Blue Jays podcast. And so I'm doing stuff with JP now, business-wise. So it's like, here you go, Yeah.
Knowing how many of your business relationships and friendships have come back around.
I know. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's also crazy to me a little bit because we've talked about it before here and there, that there were definitely times you felt like maybe you could have been easier to work with and stuff. But I think it goes to show like just what a good person you've always been at the heart of it, even when you may have had difficulties expressing or doing things the way maybe you would do with a cooler head nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Who you were as a person remained true to these people, that they knew that, well, John may have blown up, but he's a good guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, when
you never lost all of them.
When you have a friendship that endures 40+ years, and you're able to, we were all kids back then when we met in Shelby. I mean, Gibby was engaged. I think they were 18, 19 years old, and I was 22, 23, and now all these years later, you do all this business, and they're, highly, highly successful in what they both have done. And Gibby's back with the Mets, and JP is, 43 years in the game and decides to kind of like, I'm going to slow it down and stop traveling. And now he's like, all right, I'll explore doing a podcast. Yeah. So there are other things in the works too that I can't, it's not, they're not solidified yet, but we're putting things together. And yeah, I'm going to have a couple of pretty cool announcements coming up soon that are non-wrestling related. And So I'm kind of pinching myself in a way, but you're right. I mean, was I a hothead in some situations? Yes, I was. Everybody evolves. At least you hope to evolve, and you like to learn from your mistakes, and you get mellower, and you get more patient, and you analyze stuff more, and you just kind of where I am in my life now. I'm like, okay, it's just like, let me see if I could do something I still have a passion about, and to help some people that I still, have very fond feelings for, friend wise. So, and I've always been loyal. I think I've been a pretty loyal guy, and in businesses that are not that loyal,
Yes. Yeah.
entertainment, music, wrestling. And baseball, it's just kind of like what I've learned about baseball is that it's a very closed industry as well. If you look at it from the very highest level, players, coaches, people in the game, but people help their friends.
Yeah.
And that's there's nothing wrong with that. If you're qualified to do a gig and you can open a door for somebody, then it's a cool situation.
And I think that's the testament to it, is because these people are also in positions where they don't have to help anyone they don't want to. Like the fact that you've all remained where you've all remained as far as a friendship goes, and they're willing to help you, that you did stuff right. You know what I mean? With all the things you may have wished were slightly different, or you could have handled it differently, you is who you are.
Yeah, it was the wrestling business that really was the albatross in my life. Even though there was a passion and a love of my life, it was the albatross of my life. It was because of the individuals that you had to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and the nature of the business, the backstabbing, the working, the swerving, all of that.
No,
I mean, that's a big part of the wrestling business, and the music industry. I mean, for many years, developing the relationships in Nashville and doing all the deals that I did for artists and labels, and it was a different deal, on the artist level. There's some loyalty, but not a lot there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the business that I really have never made a dollar from, if you look at it on the breadth of the life of me in pro wrestling, it's the only industry I really didn't financially really capitalize on.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing it. But I don't have expectations anymore in it.
The love of the game.
That's exactly right. The love of the game.
Yeah.
And the love of the memories. One last thing. It's the love of the memories. It's a love of the history. It's a love of going back 30, 35 years and listening to these magical times. So I get a kick out of it.
And people talk about now about the health of the independent wrestling scene now, and how, it's probably bigger than it's ever been. And there's probably part of that that's true. But listening back to all your tapes, you realize that, I mean, it was just on the tail end of like territories. So it really was like, some of it wasn't necessarily independent, but it really felt that way. And you go, there was a lot going on back then too. A lot of people were putting on a lot of shows. Like, there was a bunch happening, and you were there and you were a part of it. This is Cactus Jack live from Nassau Coliseum.
Nassau Coliseum.
But this isn't the last time Jack is on the show, right? He comes back on 265?
Yes.
Okay.
He is back at 265. Yeah, and that's kind of a, I don't want to give away the farm, but I mean, he does come back in a really compelling conversation, which is almost like it ties a bow around the history of everything. When I heard it for the first time after all these years and listened to it, I was like, that's kind of a fitting way.
Yeah.
But I do have when we get off air today, I have something really cool to discuss with you on how we end that final original show.
Sounds good. This is Cactus Jack.
Hello. Yeah, we're back, I think. Yes, we're back here on the air, live from the Nassau Coliseum. and Cactus Jack singing a little Christmas jingle for everybody. And Cactus joins us right now live from the Nassau Coliseum. Cactus last night with Tommy Dreamer at his side, defeating the Sandman and Tommy Cairo. An interesting match last night at the ECW Arena where Tommy Cairo and the Sandman, of course, managed by Woman. Tommy Cairo last night managed by Angel, the Virgin Princess. She came in with a white wedding gown, and after the pinfall was made, Angel, who had interfered in a match, I believe, earlier this past week that aired on ECW TV, Tommy Dreamer had grabbed a Singapore cane and was going to smack Angel over the head with it. Cactus stopped Tommy, and please, Cactus, you're right here with me. You were telling Tommy Dreamer not to hit the Virgin Princess Angel over the head with the Singapore cane, but once you took the cane from Tommy and pushed him out of the way, a gleam went into your eye, and before you know it, Angel was down and out after getting caned on top of the head by Cactus Jack. What gives here, Cactus?
John, like you said, it wasn't anything that I thought I'd ever do. It's the first time in the history, not only professionally, but personally as well, I've ever struck a woman. But as far as I'm concerned, the Virgin Princess Angel, well, she's not really a woman. I asked Tommy Cairo, I was pleading with him, Tommy Dreamer, I was saying, Tommy, don't forget who we are. Let's get a hold of ourselves. Think about it, Tommy. Think about what you're doing. She's a woman. She's a woman. And as I grabbed the stick away from Tommy, suddenly I realized that I'm not there as a role model. I realized if I wanted to make a good impression on the good people of ECW, the best thing to do would be to bludgeon the Virgin Princess with the cane. So that's what happened. Any other arena in the country, hey, maybe I would have been arrested. Maybe I would have been up in charges. But at the ECW arena, which is like a church for the mentally disturbed, I was hailed as a conquering hero. I struck her not once, but twice, left her with a bloody mess, and I'll tell you the truth, I couldn't get to sleep. I was so damn happy about it.
Well, it certainly was a sight for sore eyes, and an unbelievable sight last night. Angel with the bloody wedding gown, and Tommy Cairo came back into the ring, was cradling her, and that was certainly a very, very sympathetic sight if you were a fan of the Virgin Princess Angel. Exciting show last night. We're live here at the Nassau Coliseum. Cactus has been signing autographs. You still have some time to come down here today. There's brand new T-shirts that Cactus has, a black T-shirt with gold embossed wanted sign with Cactus Jack on it. He is signing those Polaroid shots, and there's still time to get here today. Cactus will be here for another couple of hours, I believe. Nassau Coliseum, of course, is right off of Meadowbrook Parkway, exit 22. If you don't know how to get here, then you shouldn't even be alive, because Nassau Coliseum is in the middle of everything here on Long Island. And another Virgin Princess of sorts, Missy Hyatt, will be making her appearance here shortly as well. And Missy will be posing for pictures. Cactus?
That's right, John. Missy Hyatt will be posing for pictures, but the key hook here is that Missy Hyatt will be posing for nude Polaroids. I believe they're only $5, so come on out to the Nassau Coliseum. Who knows, if the spirit moves me, I may undress as well, and so you may be able to get it for the price of $5, which is less than it costs to get into a movie. You could get a nude Cactus Jack picture. And, may induce vomiting.
And wouldn't that be a great Christmas gift for the kids? And I know Cactus has got to get back to the tables. The line is forming there. It's been forming for the last 15 minutes. He's been gone. People lining up for the Polaroids and the 8x10 photos. So come on down to the Coliseum. Autographs are free here with your admission. And come on out. That's all I can say. Cactus, thanks a lot. Listen, Happy New Year to you and your family, Dewey, Noel, and Colette. And, of course, it's going to be a great 95 for you. You're going to Japan right at the first of the year.
That's right, John. I'm looking for a good tour of Japan. But what I'd like to know, the listeners out there, I guess you heard a little Christmas tune. John, would we like a live broadcast with another Christmas song?
You want to do a Christmas song now? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm wondering if the people out there really want to hear that.
I think we'll play it. Sure, we'll play it
okay.
before we end.
Okay, I'll be back in a little bit for a Christmas tune. Bang, bang!
Yes.
I mean, I hate to spoil it, but he didn't come back for the Christmas tune, and I don't think he did a single nude Polaroid.
No, not a nude Polaroid, no. No, but that T-shirt that we were referring to was that famous Wanted, and he had that design, so that was kind of like the debut of that T-shirt that is really still a big bestseller and historic shirt. That was it. That's the Cactus Jack shirt out of all of them that have been put out in the last 30 years.
Man, do you know who helped him design it or anything like that?
I do not.
Yeah.
I do not. He was always he always had his own little group of people that would help him with some of this stuff, and he was getting more sophisticated when it came to his merch because people would buy it.
Wow, that's awesome. I have one of those. I mean, I've worn it on the show. I have one of the Wanted Dead shirts myself.
Like I bought, that was I have copies of that myself, and to me, it's still my favorite. I have two favorite wrestling t-shirts. That one with Cactus, and the one that WWE put out with which they don't sell anymore. The one with Bruno Sammartino, the legend. Just a beautiful shirt. It had Bruno in a pose like the legend, and it was just a beautiful black and white shirt that they had out there just for a very limited time. I believe it was when he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. It was just out for a few months, and I saw it and I bought it, and I'm glad I have it.
They did another one. I want to say it was right when he passed. That was it showed all the sellouts. Like how many times he sold out Madison Square Garden?
This one is a different one, I believe. Okay. This was just a one from earlier. But anyway, t-shirts are a bit huge. I mean, I know you wear a different one every week.
Yeah, I try to keep them moving.
How many do you have?
I've got. I mean, I get in trouble for using so much closet space with all my shirts, and I got a stack on top of a dresser that's also filled with shirts, and so I got to sell a few.
Oh,
I think
no.
I'm getting in trouble for it now. Even she walked around wearing one of my wrestling shirts.
Something going on in the background there, talking about the shirts.
Yeah, come on, you're wearing one of mine, and all of a sudden, it's a problem that I have so many. Come on.
Yeah, well,
what would you wear at the gym if it wasn't for my wrestling shirts? Ridiculous. But as long as we're going to take a quick side trail, anyways, this is really short. This one's actually the Arn Anderson one, because they just released this comic book that was through a Kickstarter type thing. It wasn't quite Quickstarter.
No kidding.
I just wanted to show it because the art on it was so cool, so fantastic. And
it looks like a hardcover. Is it a hardcover?
Yeah, it's a hardcover. They gave it a gold
embossing. Yeah, like in embossing. What do you call that?
Yeah, some sort
embossing.
I don't know. Yeah, it's got a little signed card in it, but the art in it is so cool and it's really neat. And I just wish that more wrestlers would tell their story at all. And if you're going to tell your story, graphic novel is such a cool way. People forget how visual wrestling is.
Yeah.
And I can't get enough of wrestling comic books. And so the fact that Arn did that one, really cool. And my fiance surprised me with having bought all this pre-order stuff that I didn't know about. So just cool. Putting it over.
You got somebody there that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, when we first got together, she joined the Navy immediately after we got together. And I don't think it was because we got together, but it's hard to say. You know what I mean? It's hard to say. She went to that station in Hawaii. I was living in New York, and that's just how we started our relationship.
It's a long
One of the things she did. It was as long distance as it could be, and that's what I mean. It may have been because we just met that she was doing that. Want a little space, but one of the things she did very, very early on, we'd only been dating a short period of time. She surprised me with tickets to the big event in New York, which I believe to be the predecessor, or not the predecessor, but the follow-up of your conventions, because it's in the same LaGuardia hotel.
Yeah.
She had bought me a meet and greet package for Bret Hart, and that's where these glasses behind me are, and the pictures, me and Will and my roommate and Bret. But yeah, I mean, she didn't know anything about wrestling at the time. She just had written down in a note that I had told her my favorite wrestler of all time was Bret Hart. So she found out he was going to be in New York and was like, well, now you're going to go meet him. And I was like, oh, shit, that's cool. That and the Shawn Michaels. So, but just good stuff. I don't mean to go on too much of a thing.
No, that's cool. That's cool stuff, though. I mean, you find the one, and I guess they call it, I'm finding my person.
Yeah.
If you watch The Bachelor, I'm going to find my person.
It's very similar. But yeah, I mean, I knew early on there's something going on here, because
Yeah.
I met Brett. The last clip we have today is Tod Gordon returning to the program. Now, this is one where I believe you interviewed Tod Gordon prior, recorded it, and played the tape into the phone.
Yep. That's exactly what I did.
I did as much as I could to sweeten the audio on this.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. It's a phone listening to a tape.
Hey, it's classic WNYG stuff, even though we're on WGBB.
Yeah. You're going to call in to your show and play a radio tape into the payphone, into the call-in line. Pro.
John and Arezzi live at the ECW Arena, another jam-packed house in Philadelphia for, I guess, the second annual Christmas show for ECW. And I'm here with Tod Gordon, the commissioner of ECW. And Tod, I understand, has a very special Christmas gift in store for all the New York fans.
Absolutely, John. We are finally going to be on MSG sometime before February 1st. We'll be on midnight, either Thursday or Friday night. The date hasn't been set yet, but it will be on. At guaranteed, the contracts are signed. We will be on by February 1st. And the fans in the New York area certainly have been looking forward to this for a long, long time. ECW coming to New York, and with Extreme brand of wrestling, experience the difference, as they say, on TV here in Philadelphia. They've been clamoring for this, Todd. It must make you feel very good.
It makes me feel great. And number one is the New York fans have been coming down on your bus and on your trip, and we're appreciative to you, John Arezzi, for that. I will tell you that as of January, we're going to be adding about 500 or 600 new seats to the ECW Arena. So hopefully there'll be enough room for all the fans to get in. And unfortunately, a lot were turned away tonight. We're going to hope we can rectify that before January.
And the fans of New York also, now that you're getting on MSG Network, that means that ECW Live should be coming to the New York area also perhaps by springtime.
Within 60 to 90 days after we hit air, we'll be in New York running shows.
And the brand of wrestling here, Todd, 1994 was certainly an historic year in professional wrestling because of the style that's being nurtured and developed here at ECW. It's turned heads everywhere in the business.
It turns heads everywhere, John, and quite honestly, like we say, we're not for everyone. But the people that we're for, nobody else.
What has been your biggest highlight of 1994?
The biggest highlight has to be the fact that the fans have caught on to ECW. It started out almost like a cult following, and now it's turned to a groundswell movement, and we're excited, and we're not going to change the thing we're doing, because this is what got us here, and we're going to keep doing it the same way.
Other markets nationally you've been expanding to? You're on the Sunshine Network in Florida. Any other markets that you're going on here in the U.S.?
Well, we're also on Channel America and the American Independent Network. We're also overseas, and we're going to be on Chicago Sports Channel relatively soon. That's our next market to clear.
Well, all I want to say is best of luck for 1995. 94 was certainly a very successful year for ECW. And 95, the New York fans are just looking forward to the fact that you're going to be on TV and most importantly being seen live in the area.
John, thank you. And Big Apple, get ready, because here we come.
Fitting ending to 1994.
Yeah, they were going to make it on the MSG Network finally, February.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was certainly big news, and Donnie mentioned it very excitedly on the capsule, and then to bring Tod on from an interview the night before at the ECW Arena it was big news. It was people were so excited about it. It was just amazing.
Was Tod? I haven't read his book yet, and people should check it out. Tod is God, and I think I'm going to put the QR code here for people to go find it as well. You read it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was there when did ECW ever exist without Tod? Did Tod step away and Paul was solely in charge?
I believe that happened, yeah.
Okay.
I should know from reading the book, obviously.
Well, I mean, also depending on how he tells the story about him being done with ECW and moving on, he might not continue the story of ECW. So,
yeah.
Just
it didn't end nicely.
It did not end nicely, and I was just wondering because here he is throughout all of this part, and I thought for whatever reason, I thought that Tod and Paul had a short working relationship together, and early on Paul took over and Tod stepped away, but. No. We're this far in, and that is just not.
No, they were there for years, and they were partners for years.
Yeah.
At least till about 2000, I would think, right?
Well, so I was wondering because I think around 2000 is when it was going under, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's when I think that's when didn't Paul show up in WWF, WWE, or whatever at the time? I think it was WWF. And in 2000? 2001, March 2001 is when he debuted, and that was when everyone knew the business was basically done for.
Yeah, so maybe
'Cause remember-
they probably split in 2000.
It could be, so it could have been that last year. That's crazy. And obviously those stories have been told over and over, but
Yeah, what a great run and the build, and they just couldn't get it done, long term. But they did good business, and what I liked about hearing Todd, I mean, because they did expand the ECW arena to add bleachers and add another 500 capacity right at the first of the year in January of '95, so it gave an additional 500 fans the opportunity to see the shows. They were growing that rapidly at the time.
that is cool. You also mentioned briefly before you ended up hanging up that Sabu joined NJPW, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that guy. My goodness. Yeah,
No.
it was a great era, man.
But that was it. Do you have any stories or anything you remember from being down at the Coliseum for that?
Not really.
Just kind of was the day of the day.
It was just,
Regular day.
let's make some money, let's bring some wrestlers in, and it was that December 18th. It was a week from Christmas, and just wanted to kick back, and at this time, obviously there was a lot going on in my life, which I wish I could remember exactly what was going on to cause the end of the show.
Yeah.
Because we only have 2 more after this. And that's it.
We'll see if you give anything away. I don't think you did, though, right? In the last ones, you heard them. You didn't really give it away.
That was the thing. I didn't. And it was a 2-hour show. It wasn't back to an hour. It was 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, because I also noticed that at the table was basically all the guests you had on recently. So it's all like, well, definitely you had these guests on and asked them to come through.
Yeah. So I don't know what was going on. I might have owed the station money, and they were like, you got to pay up or you're done. I might have I don't know. I mean, maybe some of the stuff I've blocked out, because you suppress memory sometimes. And that's why it's fascinating to hear back each and every week on what went down, because there are things that I have totally blocked out of my life, in my life, that
they also had just gone all talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, that wouldn't affect me because my show was talk.
Right. But what if they decided with that change they were going to start charging more per an hour?
They might have upped the rate. There might have been a new leadership in the program director. Who the heck knows what happened?
Yeah.
I wish I knew.
Well, I'm just spitballing to see if anything strikes that, oh my God, I remember this conversation thing. So you just don't memories work, right? But
well, maybe I should lie down on my couch and you could be the psychologist and see if you could, or psychiatrist, and see if you could draw these suppressed memories out of me.
Yeah, we gotta get to the bottom of it. I wonder if it was, like you said, maybe there was ownership. I think that if there was a blow up and someone said we don't want wrestling on our channel, you would have remembered that. So it had to be something a little more innocuous.
No, I know they had after I left, and another wrestling show came in. Adam and the Phantom or something that was on WGBB for several years, I think.
Were you friends with him?
No, not really. I did their show a couple of times. But no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was cool to see Todd back on. Like we said before, like how supportive you were of ECW. It was always kind of cool to see. I mean, even the callers are saying it feels a little bit like an ECW show, and to a point, really, kind of was, because
since I came back to GBB, it kind of turned into an ECW show.
But it also makes sense because right before you left, you were spend a lot of your show talking about IWAS and what you were going to do with that.
Yeah.
So when you realized that wasn't going to go anywhere, and you were just so in love with this product, and everybody involved in it, these guys were all great to you, man.
Yeah, we were a lot of friendships. The Terry Funks, the Cactus Jacks, the Public Enemies, a woman, Nancy and Kevin and Paul. I mean, they were, and then Ray and Psychosis coming in, and Conan, and it was great to have these friendships.
Yeah,
I believed in all those dudes.
when you went to the music after this, did you move to Nashville or did you stay in New York for a period?
After this, this was in '95. I went to work for the booking agency that booked my IWAS stuff because he was a talent agent across the board with LaToya Jackson and Jose Feliciano and a lot of these touring shows from overseas, like the Peking Circus, like those types of big Cirque du Soleil shows. And he was like, well, just come to work for me. We could still book IWAS stuff. And we did get dates. We had a few dates, 95, 96. And I started in 95. We did a lot more with AAA, so I was really kind of helping and promoting some of my own shows. After Ron got out, Pena and I did some shows. So I was still actively involved with wrestling, but I was also working for this, whether it was called the Peking Circus or something along those lines, helping with marketing because they were doing they were going to Reno, Nevada in the fourth quarter of 95. And I went there with them and spent the Christmas holidays in Reno, Nevada with the Peking Circus. And that was 95. Then 96, it was just kind of like another, falling downhill again and working somewhat and then just kind of looking for a gig. And then I still promoted a few shows in 96. And the last one I did was at the Arizona State Fair at Mil Mascaras, and a AAA show at the Celebrity Theater. Those are the last two shows I promoted. And then I was bankrupt. I was done. And that's when I started working for the country music station. And that was in November of 96. And I stayed at the Long Island Country Station for almost 2 years. And I went to a New York City station, Y107. They hired me away because I was doing great in sales and marketing, music marketing. And they started sending me to Nashville to drum business up from the labels. So, and then really in the spring of 2000, Hispanic ownership took over the country station, and they were the station group. The owners had 4 stations: L.A., Chicago, and New York, and I believe there was another one. They flipped the L.A. station to Spanish, then they flipped Chicago to Spanish, and I'm like, they're going to be flipping Y107 to Spanish. There's no doubt in my mind. And they fired, one day I went to work and they fired everyone was gone. My sales manager was gone. The guy who was the president of the company was gone. And this guy, Carlos, was there and he was running the show. And like a month later, it's like May of 2000, my old sales manager had gotten hired by a company called Jones Media America, who programmed 20% of the country stations in the U.S. They own Great American Country Television and a website called countrystars.com. She called me up. She was like, how would you like to sell for this company? It's national. It's not local, but there's a catch to it. You're going to have to move to Nashville if you get the job. And I'm like, well, I've been visiting Nashville for the last couple of years and I like it there. So, and I negotiated a deal, which was one of those, it was classic. I went through several months of interviews. And then when it came down for me with the CEO to negotiate what I was going to make, I wrote down a number on a piece of paper. He goes, what is it going to take? This is what we can offer. And I was like, well, how about if we do this number? And it was just kind of classic. I handed him the piece of paper and he opened it up and he goes, yeah, we can do that. So they wanted me badly. And then I moved to Nashville in July of 2000.
Okay. Because I was wondering, Bubba Dudley shows up in ECW in 95. Were you still going to the shows actively at that point?
Yes.
So you stayed heavily going to all those shows up until you moved away.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think I started 96. I started not going anymore because I was in such a funk, depression-wise, and before I got the gig with the country station, I was in a bad shape in 96. It was not good. It was not good at all. I was really, really at the bottom of the barrel. I didn't even have a freaking car anymore. It was bad.
Because he's also the only name that I can discern in this list of like people who were there that was never nice to you. And so I could see, because that was also late 95, so I could see September, October, you're going.
Yeah.
And then by the beginning of 96, you're like, man, fuck that guy.
Well, it's like when I got when I got the job at the country station. I mean, the first client I go to with Tommy Knockers in Farmingdale to pitch them advertising, and walk into the club as John Alexander, changed my name. And, you know, the guy who runs the club was this guy that my dad knew.
Yeah.
And then who's sitting at the bar was Mark.
Yeah.
So, but he, you know, he didn't do anything to me. I mean, he didn't. Yeah. I mean, the hatred came out. Hatred came out later or something. I don't know.
So he just ignored you at the time till
he ignored me pretty much. Yeah, just acknowledged me or shook his head, and that was that.
Huh?
He didn't badmouth me because I got the account.
Yeah.
So who the hell knows? I mean, you know, I have heard stories also, not just the Sonny Blaze stuff, and I think I heard stories that I was supposed to have a lunch or a breakfast with him at a diner, and I didn't show up or something.
Oh.
I don't know, man. I wish I knew, and I wish he would tell me.
Yeah, there's that too. And then when you think about it too, when he first showed up to ECW, he was nobody. Not in a bad way, right? He just was new. He was fresh, and he probably was really keeping his head down. Saw you walking around and was just like, well, I'm just not going to go talk to that guy.
Yeah,
because
I
don't like him.
I'm trying to get a position here.
Yeah, and then by the time you stop going is around the time he starts getting big, and so
huge. Yeah,
timing out wise was like, I could see that. I could see that not being a stress on you at all because he probably was just ignoring you. So it's all just weird and interesting.
It is.
And that's why I like it.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's what we got. We got 2 more shows left to go.
And we have our big Patreon Zoom get together to kind of talk about what we're going to be doing.
Yep.
And that is actually, if you're a patron listening to this on the day it comes out, which is going to be Sunday, the 28th of January. That's when patrons get this show. We're doing it on Monday night, the 29th. And that's when we're going to break the news.
Yep.
Break the news.
Yep.
I wonder what Anthony Pyrus is going to do. He confirmed the RSVP today.
Perfect.
I'll be there.
He'll be there. Well, he's there even if he's somewhere else too, which is what I like about him.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm at the Pats game.
Yeah, the Pats are done, so he ain't gonna be at no Pats game. But yeah, it should be fun. We got some cool ideas, and hopefully people will think it's they're as cool as what we're going to be doing, and we'll figure it all out. But Marsh, as we do each and every week, I want to thank you, and please let everybody know out there where they can get a hold of Ref Marsh.
Yeah, I'm still looming on X at Ref Marsh, but I don't go on there nearly as much at this point. So, if you can find me on Threads or Instagram, I'm usually checking that out a little bit more, even when I'm not posting. But that's Marsh Ref. And outside of that, Wrestling on the Rocks is my fun little sandbox.
Yeah.
And then Queen of Carnage on YouTube, hanging out with Medusa and with you on YouTube, man.
Yeah, we have fun, don't we?
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yes, we do.
Look forward.
All right, my friend. We'll see you next week. And all my friends out there who listen to this show, that'll wrap it up for this edition. 2 more remain. That is crazy. And there'll be good ones, too. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy those. I want to remind you, if you're looking for me on social media, at John Arezzi on X, at John Arezzi on Threads, at John Arezzi on Instagram, and the Matt Memories pages on Facebook. Man, we got a huge response. I put a picture up of myself and Freddie Blassie taken a few days after I graduated from high school in June of 1974. And that thing just went through the roof as far as people seeing that photo and commenting and liking it. And I think we got close to 100,000 impressions on it. People who have actually looked at it, not necessarily liked it, but there was, it's about 1,000 likes right now, whatever. So what does that mean? I don't know. I just appreciate the folks out there. So that's at Facebook, Matt Memories, private group and a public group there. And of course, we have the Pro Wrestling Spotlight radio show and podcast private group on Facebook there as well. There'll be another episode of Matt Memories from Madison Square Garden podcast coming out in the next couple of weeks, as soon as my buddy Tim gets back from his travels, and then we'll tape that next one as well. Join the Patreon, especially with the new stuff we got coming up. We really would appreciate it if you join now, and it's patreon.com/John Arezzi. Almost 700 posts up there now, and so much content covering a lot of history. If you're a fan of history, check it out. Thank you to our producer and creative director, Marsh, and thank you to Patreon executive producers, Anthony Pyrus and Joe Holloway, and for each and every one of you patrons out there for your support helping with the production costs for this show. Until next time, when we relive more history with you, this is John Arezzi for the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.